Welcome to Cleveland Conversations. Wherever there are cities, there's going to be disagreements, and certainly Cleveland is not an exception to that rule. There are also going to be longstanding champions, passionate advocates for causes they believe in, for constituents, for different things that they think could be made better. And our guest today is one such person in our area who has spent a 50-year career on city council. Mike Polensek, first elected to council back in 1977 in what was then Ward 26. He's currently the newly elected representative of Ward 10. He has been city council president, worked with many mayors, many colleagues, seen federal raids of government offices. If one person has the justification of saying he's seen it all, it's councilperson Polensek. Welcome to the program.
Glad to be here.
Great. Let's start by having you speak about what do you think are some of the ongoing persistent challenges that Cleveland hasn't quite solved yet?
Population loss, housing affordability become a major problem. The majority of our residents today in the city of Cleveland are tenants, renters, not homeowners. That's how there's been such an evolution in housing. Schools. We're seeing another 18 schools being proposed for closing on top of the 29 that have already been closed on the east side of the city. So many of us are greatly concerned. When I came into city council, there were 33 council people. We now have 15. So the proof is in the pudding. Unless you focus more on quality of life issues, neighborhood concerns, creating jobs and opportunity, you have this continued migration out of the city, and that's what I've seen in my time. And it's very, I was growing, I never lived anyplace else. I grew up in Cleveland. I was born in a Glenville neighborhood on East 120th Street. Same street my mother was born on. Moved in the Collinwood area when I was a small child. I've seen it all, as you said, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And unfortunately, I've seen more ugly in recent times. And I keep asking myself, I say this to my colleagues all the time, what is it here that we can't get it together like we once did in this city? People forget Cleveland was one of the preeminent cities in the country. We were ahead of everybody. We had our own airport, our own water system, our own power system, our own aquarium, I could go right on the list, everything that we had. But what the reality was, it was incompetence, malfeasance, political cronyism that destroyed and wrecked so many departments, divisions, and things that we did in the city. And somehow today in 2026, as I said to my colleagues over this last week, because we were dealing with a lot of issues in Washington, unless we focus on quality of life issues, nothing is going to change. We're going to continue to see population loss, and that speaks for itself.
Yeah, let's follow up a little bit on the housing situation.
Right.
Because I know that people typically feel that rising property values are by definition a positive for everyone. Is that always the case?
No, it isn't. Talk to the people of Little Italy, Detroit Shoreway, Tremont, Ohio City, were longtime residents who've been in their homes for years. Maybe they're retired now, and someone's building a $400,000 house next door. They can't afford their property taxes anymore because when every 3 years with the revaluation. So what we're seeing now is the highest percentage ever in Cuyahoga County with delinquencies, property tax delinquencies. So we got to get real. The person next door is getting tax abatement to build that new house, but I'm not getting tax abatement. I'm paying, and I'm the one supporting the schools. See, that's the reality here. We've got to get back to basics. What does it take to stabilize neighborhoods, and what is it going to take to keep people in our neighborhoods to attract? We want that new home to be constructed, but at the same time, we can't punish people who've lived in our neighborhoods for years. So we've got to look at the whole issue of what we're supporting. We need more programs for home rehab. When I was walking door to door this year, in the last year in the election, when you drive in a car, you're looking ahead. But when you're walking down the street, and I walked my ward, as I always do, and you look up and you see the number of houses that have blue tarps on them. We didn't have a tornado here. We didn't have a hurricane. The number of houses missing shingles. I'd say a quarter of the houses that I looked at had roof issues. Front porches leaning on some of the older streets, garages leaning. People can't fix their homes. We need to come up with better programs to assist people, working poor, elderly, people who are struggling to improve their homes. If we don't do that, we have 18,000 vacant lots in the city of Cleveland today. There were once houses on all those. We just can't continue to tear down everything. We have spent almost $100 million, maybe more, just tearing down structures. That's unacceptable. Many houses that came down didn't have to come down. They had good bones, but they sat there vacant and then open, what we call OV&V, open, vacant, and vandalized. The county doesn't foreclose on them. And that's another issue. We need to have a better partner on the county side. We cannot continue to have property just sitting there. And then when you look at the tax delinquency is much as the house is worth. That's crazy in Cuyahoga County. That's got to change. So a lot of things with this new council, we've got to bring people in. We've got to start creating partnerships, better partnerships with the county, better partnerships with the state where we can. But at the end of the day, it's got to be all hands on deck. Because if we don't do that, nothing is going to change. I've seen it all. I've experienced it. I've witnessed it. So the reality is there.
And let me ask you, two big issues today, of course, are the Browns. I don't know about leaving Cleveland again is the right way,
yes.
But they're going to have, it looks like they're going to be having their games be played outside of downtown. And then the discussion concerning the possible closure of Burke Lakefront Airport. How does Mike Polensek evaluate or assess things like that?
Well, let me talk with the Browns first. The Browns deal that was just agreed to probably will go down as one of the worst deals ever in the history of the city of Cleveland. Mm-hmm. How the mayor could have agreed to that is beyond me. We still owe $33 million on the stadium. We still owe about $27 million for debt service interest. Jimmy Hassan still wants us to put another $12 million into the building in capital repairs that we're going to have to tear down. He wants us to pay another approximately $6 million that he says we owe him on capital repairs. We spent over $1.5 million on legal fees already. So this quick number, start adding it up, we wind up losing money on this deal, and then we're going to give him the rights to demolish a city building where he can benefit from all the salvage rights. He can sell the seats. We've estimated he can make about $10 million off the seats. Have people lost their freaking minds here? I'm a firm believer we have to test City Hall to see if there's lead in the pipes. Who in their right mind would have agreed to that? I didn't. I mean, this deal, again, quote me, will go down as one of the worst deals ever in the history of the city of Cleveland. And then we have a stadium that we're going to have paid off in 3 years that we will control, but we're going to let him tear it down because he doesn't want any competition. Only in America do people make stupid-ass decisions like that one. And that was about as dumb as you could get, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. On Burke, the whole time I've been in city council, they've talked about Burke. Should it stay and should it go? The reality is the city, since the White administration, has never made an effort to make it work. Mike White made an effort to make it work. We had commuter planes out of there. We had a restaurant down there. We had, the car race, air show. There's been, this is systematic. This is premeditated to kill Burke Airport. And so, let's step back. Do we need another 400-acre park? I pose that question. We can't maintain the parks we have now. I'd like to give you a tour, show you the parks and recreation facilities that we have, and say, wait a minute, do we need another 400-acre park? You go down 10 feet at Burke Airport, you hit water. That's how high the water table is. So what are you going to build there? It's landfill. The airport, the runway is 1,000 feet longer than Lorraine, 1,000 feet longer than County Airport, 1,000 feet longer than Lost Nations. You're going to knock out that major airstrip, and then with what? Who's going there? Somebody tell me. That's the question I raised. Mm-hmm. Show me what's going here. If we're just going to have to cut grass and have bike paths, I'm trying to develop right now a 150-acre park on the lakefront with Metro Parks. And I don't have to tell you how costly that is. But it's already there. We've got 3 parks there already. It's an expansion. So we'll have a 150-acre park, and it's something that I've been working on very diligently over the last several years now. No one has to tell me what it costs to do this stuff. So again, show me the plan. Where's the beef? I want to see. Show me what's going to go at the Burke Airport. We're here about they want to spend. The mayor wants to spend $280 million on the lakefront to the west of the East 9th Street. Show me what's going there. What's going to create jobs and opportunities for our citizens? Show me how one East Side neighborhood is going to benefit from that. That's what I want to see. Because everything we've done that collectively one administration has done over these years that says, whoa, we're going to stabilize the city. We're going to create linkages. Give me a break. Look at the east side of the city. Where is the linkage? There has been no linkage. Poverty, lack of opportunity, despair. I mean, come on now, really? I don't know if they think everyone's just plain stupid, but I'm not. I'm not. I learned, I watch, I listen. I do a lot of listening. This job has taught me to listen and to watch what people are advocating in a reality. George Ford would say to me many, many years ago, Michael, don't take too much attention to what they're saying. Look at the end results. Look what will happen. That's what I'm looking at. And based on that track record, I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about your current ward. Tell us about Ward 10.
I'm told it's the largest geographical ward now in the city of Cleveland if you take out the airport from Ward 15, which there's nobody living. Runs from the lake south to South Euclid, Cleveland Heights, East Cleveland, Euclid. So it's a large area, some very solid areas, and some areas that are very rough now as a result of the economy. And again, housing abandonment, housing decline. When I walked again, I saw it all. I saw very strong neighborhoods like up near the lake. Then as I went south and to the west, as I was walking, I saw more and more rental property, more and more limited liability companies coming in, trying to grab everything they can, which is a major problem on the east side of the city. I was shocked by the number of abandoned homes as I walked in areas that I didn't think there'd be abandoned homes.
Yeah, and the limited liability properties you're talking about out of state corporations, vendors, or people, if you will, purchasing homes
out of
and
state,
basically waiting for them to.
Out of state, out of country. Mm-hmm. I'm dealing with companies now, individuals from China, Brussels, Belgium, company in Brussels, Belgium buying a property. Mm-hmm. You name it, I'm dealing with them, which you never saw that in the day. I was dealing with Mr. and Mrs. Jones who owned that home up the street. When I came into city council, I didn't know what an abandoned lot was. I didn't know what an abandoned home was. When I got my first abandoned house, I was like, what the hell is this? Because we didn't see that. People would do everything they can to live in those homes. I can remember my late mother-in-law's telling me that, you know, when things got tough, you'd have people living in the basement. You'd have people living in the attic. I heard about the migrations. My African-American brothers up from the Deep South when they came up, they had multiple families living in homes because it was important. They didn't have the money to pay rent. So I saw that. I experienced all that. And so the things that I've seen today, the abandoned homes, the homes that are in need of repair are incredible. We're not going to demolish our way out of this. The majority of homes in the city of Cleveland have been built prior to the Second World War. They're all nearing 100 years of age or over 100 years of age. And unless we come up programs, I don't care if you're a house or a person, you hit 100 years of age, you got issues, okay? And so we got issues in our housing market, and we better figure out how to come up with plans to address it.
Yeah, another area that I know you're very concerned about is school closures, such as Collinwood in your current ward. Talk about why this is such a concern, the impacts on the ward, how optimistic you are about property redevelopment of some of these schools.
I'll take a snapshot of Glenville neighborhood. Glenville neighborhood, just to the west of me, has lost 22% of its population in less than a decade. Well, why? You keep closing all the schools. Look at the number of schools they've closed in Glenville. The proof is in the pudding. You can't keep closing schools and have stable neighborhoods. Or you can't keep stripping programs. Like Collinwood High School was the preeminent vocational technical high school on Cleveland's east side. The largest high school in the state of Ohio for over 3 decades, if not longer. But you stripped all the programs out of Collinwood. You took everything out of the building. And now you have a swimming pool, an Olympic-sized swimming pool, it sits there empty. Because why? Because what do they say? Because black kids don't swim or won't swim. What a crock. That's insulting to me. That's insulting to my community when I hear that crap out of CMSD people. It's premeditated. What they did to Collinwood High School is premeditated. They stripped all the elementary schools in our neighborhood. We have two new elementary schools they're going to close. Are you out of your freaking mind? 4 schools on the northeast side. You want families to stay, you want families to reinvest, you got to commit to education. This is what I tell everybody. If you don't educate, you incarcerate. Keep letting our school system implode and don't do this, provide the services and opportunities. I'm on the board of Ginn Academy. Ted Ginn, legendary educator, football coach. He needs more wraparound services. He needs more teachers. He's in a building that was built for 1,100 students. There's just around 400. He could put more kids in there if the programs were there and the backup services were there. Do they provide that to him? No. So they don't even support the programs that are successful, that are winning in the city of Cleveland. So again, what's their answer? Close more schools, but then what do? They turn around and they raise all the salaries of the upper echelon, including the CEO of the Board of Education. I mean, come on now. Total insult. Insulting to those who not only care about our kids, but voters and taxpayers. That's how you think about us? You're going to close all these schools, but you're going to raise the salaries of all the upper echelon. That's not cut it. Anyone who votes for another school levy, they've lost their mind, quite frankly. I will never support another school levy in light of what I have seen.
Wow. And when you talk to your constituents, what are the issues, concerns that they're raising most frequently?
The majority of our constituents believe in Cleveland. My constituents, not only in Cleveland, but my ward, but all, they believe in Cleveland. I love Cleveland. I've never lived anyplace else. I see all the opportunities. Whatever neighborhood I'm in, again, I'll go back, opportunities, the chances to do things differently. And I keep asking myself, why can't we get it together? Why can't? And what it all comes down to is private agendas. That's what it comes down to in Cleveland. I've learned that firsthand. It's private agendas. Who's going to be the developer? Who's not going to be the developer? Who can benefit? Who cannot benefit? And until we get to a point where our goal should be, how do we make our neighborhoods better? And if this developer benefits as a result of that, then so be it. I mean, I'm here to do what I have to do to stabilize my neighborhood and provide opportunities. I have a lot of people in my ward who have the financial wherewithal. They could leave, but they stay because of the proximity to the lake. They're 15 minutes to downtown, 15 minutes to University Circle, where a lot of them work. So geographically, Ward 10 is well positioned. But there comes a point, unless you improve their world, their quality of life, then they make a conscious decision, and they talk with their feet. And we've seen too many people in Cleveland, especially on the east side, talk with their feet. Mm-hmm. So the migration out, we all have seen it, the migration out at the east side. The drop in council people speak for itself, going to 15. So we've got to support our residents. I do that every day. I'm an old school guy. I answer the phone. I'm out here every day. I do this full time. And I feel very passionately about my constituents, the kids in my neighborhood who deserve opportunities. There's too many poor kids being written off in this city. They're being written off by the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. I've said this to the mayor, point blank. They're writing these kids off. And he looks at me like I'm like deer in the headlights. You got to get back to basics. You got to, it's back to the future here. Unless we start doing things differently, there'll be no improvement in our neighborhoods. There'll be no improvement in city. So CSU doesn't benefit by a city in decline or just holding its own. CSU survives and grows because we have people moving in. We have people staying. We have people deciding, this is my home. I want to make it the best I can. So that's what I'm all about. Every day I try to figure out how I can make my neighborhood the best it can, best it can be.
And you've been doing this for half a century now. What first motivated you to do this, and what motivates you to keep going today?
My mother was an activist. She raised 4 of us by herself in a 2-bedroom home off of St. Clair. We were in bunk beds. We had it tough. She was on public assistance a lot of the times that I was growing up. But she was a neighborhood activist. So in '67, she had me passing out stuff for then Carl Stokes, who was running for mayor in 1967. And so one thing led to another. And when I went to work at White Motors on St. Clair, in the old neighborhood down in the St. Clair Superior neighborhood, I got involved in the UAW, United Auto Workers, Local 32. Their CAP council was their political arm. And there was an elderly Polish gentleman who was one of 7 of us that worked on a drill press line, who motivated us. We were all young guys except for this fella. I'll never forget his, John Markuska. We had 2 black guys, a Cuban, a Puerto Rican, an Italian, and myself. Who am I missing? But there were a total of 7 of us. And one day, we were having break, and we were all, we're all complaining about everything. The young guys were sitting there complaining, and he would always listen. And then one day he just erupted at us, and he said, all you guys do is complain and bitch about what's going on. Why don't you do something? And it was, I don't know the way he said it, or the words, how he said it, but out of the 7 of us, the majority of us got involved in our neighborhoods, and 3 of us ran for city council. And I was fortunate to want to get elected. And I'll never forget this guy. When he passed away, he was buried in a Slavic Village neighborhood, little short Polish guy. And on the lid of his casket was this big plaque with all these medals on it. And as I stood there, I said to his wife, Irene, what is all this? She said, John was a decorated war veteran. He fought in the Battle of the Bulge. I said, I worked with this man. I worked next to him for 3 straight years. Never once mentioned anything about that. And she looked at me, she said, Michael, John believed he did his service. He came home. He put that behind him because there were some bad things he experienced. And he went to work. And he was a loyal American. And I think about that all the time. He didn't ask for nothing. He just went to work when he came home, defending his country, fighting fascism. And so that motivated me, and it motivates me to this day. And what my dear late friend Lou Stokes would tell me. I sat with him one day at the old Collin Post Office, 105th in Chester. And he said to me, Michael, never forget where you came from, and never forget who you represent. I live that every day. I've never forgot where I came from, and I don't forget who I represent. That rules me every day, and that's what keeps me motivated. And I will tell you, the older I get, the more motivated I am, because I see the possibilities. I see the things that we could be doing and that we should be doing, and it upsets me to no end that we've lost sight of common sense here, and we got to get back to common sense, not just here, but across our country. I just came back from Washington. You want to talk about chaos? You want to talk about a horrible environment in Washington where people cannot get along? I can remember Mary Rose Oakart telling me how her and Lou Stokes and George Winovich would sit down, Democrats and Republicans, seeing what they each needed and how they could support one another. Those days are over. And we got to figure out how to get back to that in this country, not only in Washington, but look at Columbus. Look at that chaos in Columbus again, right here. I mean, that bunch in Columbus, what an embarrassment for the state of Ohio. We've got to get back to some common sense. But I would say to the average citizen who's going to watch this, get involved. Do not abdicate your responsibility. I didn't abdicate my responsibility. I've told my kids, I better find out that you don't vote. I don't care who you vote for, but I better find out. Your father better not find out that you didn't vote. Get involved. Become a stakeholder. Reclaim our cities, our county, and our country. If we don't do that, we got big problems in America. I think as we're all starting to see.
Yeah. I want to make sure I get this question in. How important is your assistant, Ms. Daly, to to your efforts.
In 48 plus years, because you said 50, it's 48 plus. 48 years in 3 months. She's been with me 27 years. She's a case girl. I've only had 2 aides in all my time in council, and I was the last councilman to get an aide because I thought I could do it by myself, and I came to the point I realized I couldn't be out in the neighborhoods. I couldn't answer the phone call. So, and I think my first aide was supposed to probably be mounted at the Natural History Museum somewhere because I wore her out. I've been very fortunate, but both of my aides, again, grew up in Cleveland. Their roots are in Cleveland. They understand the city, and Mary Louise knows the job as well as anyone. She knows where all the bodies are buried at City Hall and how to track down everybody. So I'm very fortunate to have her.
And let's finish up by having you talk about which projects, accomplishments you are particularly proud of. You've had some momentous accomplishments through the years.
Well, I'm very proud of the fact that I sponsored Cleveland's first fair housing law, because I saw what people involved in real estate, what they were doing in the Glenville neighborhood, the Collinwood neighborhood, the racial steering, the panic peddling, the blackbusting,
redlining.
I saw it all. So I was so proud of the fact, and you have no idea how long it took me to get that passed. Think about that. In the city of Cleveland, get a fair housing ordinance passed. Finally got it passed in the late 80s. The Collinwood Rec Center, which is something I worked on a long time. Again, expansion of the lakefront parks. When they were owned by the city of Cleveland, they were terrible. We got them into the Department of Natural Resources, and then that wasn't working out well. Now they're under Metro Parks, so I want to just thank my colleagues for supporting that in City Council, supporting my efforts, and I'm working with Metro Parks to expand that. The different programs in our neighborhoods, housing programs, support for local businesses that I provided, numerous businesses. I could go down a long, long list of initiatives that I've worked on, parks and playgrounds and resurfacing roads. And in fact, I'm working on my street list right now, trying to figure out which streets need to be replaced. My whole thing is I focus on what I believe to be, again, quality of life issues in our neighborhoods. Ward 10 is one of the lowest crime rate wards in the city. It's the lowest on the east side of the city, and I'm very proud of that fact. And I'd like to believe I had a part in that because I'm very aggressive on crime issues, on law and safety. My residents, I have 21 neighborhood groups that I work very closely with. Probably have more neighborhood organizations than any other ward in the city of Cleveland. I try to cultivate them, help them in every which way I can. Again, urging them to take an active role. I don't need to be running everything. I don't want to run nothing. I want to support people. I want to support different organizations in my community. And that's what I've done. And I'm very thankful. I've been honored to be been elected overwhelmingly by my constituents. I represent a ward that's 77% black, and I have been reelected overwhelmingly. And I'm so appreciative because I never thought I'd be a public official. I worked in a factory. I punched the clock. And so when I ran, my one grandmother said to me, Michael, this is not for us. And I looked at it, I said, Grandma, what are you talking about? She said, we're working people. Politics isn't for people like us. That's for people who have these fancy names. I said, Grandma, maybe that's the problem. We keep electing people with these names, but they don't represent us. And so, and then my other uncle, on the Italian side, you can't get elected with that name. You either got to be Irish or Italian to get elected. And I said, Uncle Tomas, I'm going to prove you wrong. Yeah. And
excellent,
I did.
Excellent. We'll wrap it up there.
Okay.
We could talk for hours.
Sure.
We'd like to express our humblest gratitude to Mike Polensek for joining us today, sharing his insights, his pragmatic concerns, but also his optimism and outlook for the future. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Cleveland Conversations.